Okay, just go. Thank you. Hi friends. All right, so to be really transparent right now, I'm very uninspired with content and I'm kind of in a reading slump, so it's been really hard to come up with content. I was supposed to have a video up on Sunday, that didn't happen. So I'm doing 2 videos this week. Here's the first one, and the second one should come out when it should come out on Sunday. But I went on a girls' weekend this weekend. Sorry, I'm moving here to pet my dog. I went on a girls' weekend this weekend, and we do this every year. It's the 3rd year. We went to a bunch of bookstores, so that's the B-roll that you just saw. And then we just hung out at the house that we always rent. Like, we rent a house every time we go. We don't rent this specific house. And we read, eat junk food, go out to eat, laugh, puzzle. It's also fun. So I'm gonna kind of do more of like a recap right now of that weekend, like what I've read. And then I am going to go through a book haul because I've gotten a ton of books. I also want to do some bookish bookshelf math from my January wrap up. I have started a new TBR challenge for myself and a new way in which I do my wrap-ups. And so I just want to kind of fine tune that a little bit more because I didn't really come up with a system until I was editing the video and thought through how I wanted it to look like, but I never really explained that in that video. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that first. And so in that video, you guys probably saw me obviously recapping. There was like a math formula. So I'm going to call it bookshelf math is my new TBR monthly challenge, and you guys can help me come up with the end result or end goal. The ultimate goal is that my number at the end of the month be positive. Will that happen? Probably not. But as you know from last month, and I'm going to link the video up here so that you have a little more like context, but I count how many books I bring in the month versus how many I've read, and I do NetGalley math too. But then the number is either going to be like positive or negative. Did I bring in more than I read, or did I read it more than I brought in? The goal at the end of the year is to have something positive, but I started out at, I think, -14 last month. So that's like not that great. And based on what I've gotten this month, still not that great. So I'm only going to do the hard books that I brought in so far. It's only Valentine's Day right now. So if this is the number of books that have come in thus far, that's a little alarming. You're gonna hear my puppies whining because like they think I'm ignoring them, although they're right here letting me pet them. I'm just not letting them come into the frame of the video because I'm mean, but also because they would just sow chaos. So let's go through what I've acquired the first 14 days of February. All right, I've got quite the stack. So I've got 11 books so far that I have acquired this month. A few were sent to me by publishers, some were gifted, and some were purchased with my own money. First and foremost, I've acquired book 3 in the Crescent City series by Sarah J. Maas. This will probably be a March read because I'm currently reading the ACOTAR series as a reread, and then I will reread this whole series up to this. So first book acquired. And then I purchased Betty by Tiffany McDonald. I've heard really good things about this, especially if you like The Glass Castle or Shiner by Amy Jo Burns. I've just heard these are good comp titles. This was an indie press list book from the Currently Reading podcast as well. And I had a friend reading it that really made me want to pick it up. And then I purchased 2 books during the girls' weekend that I just talked about. One of them is The Women by Kristen Hanna. I've already read that, so it doesn't count. I want it on my forever shelf, and then I've already passed it along to my mom to read. I also bought A Demon's Guide to Wooing a Witch, which is book 2 in this series. And I read the first book in my Reading Like Witchy rom-com series back in October and really loved it. And I'm excited for the 2 characters that this features. It features Claudia and Astaroth. He's kind of like the grumpy, evil man, and she's like the free-spirited person. So I'm very excited about this book as well. Those were my purchases of the month. I guess I have one more. Just kidding, I have 3 more. So the Bookish subscriptions that I am a part of from Dog-Eared Books and Ames, This was their January pick, but it didn't come out until the end of the month, and so I got it in February, but Come and Get It by Kylie Reed. I thought Such a Fun Age was just okay by her. Like, I liked it, but didn't love it. But this is kind of set in like sorority in the South. But if you like rush talk, it would be a good one. I don't know much about it, and I think I'll just go into it blind when I'm in the mood for it. And then my book of the month came in. Guys, remember how I wasn't supposed to buy any? I've been doing a really good job. I did skip in January though, so there's that. So I got this romantasy. It's Heartless Hunter, the Crimson Moth book one. I know very little about it, but I've been in a romantasy mood since reading the Throne of Glass series, and so here we are. You're wondering why my arm is awkwardly over here. Again, I'm just trying to placate my dog. And then I have this already on NetGalley. I love this author, and so it was an add-on, I believe, or one of the main picks for this month. Family by Lori Frankel. I still haven't read it, but I know it's about adoption, and Lori Frankel is an adoptive mom. And she's the type of author and person that I know handles adoption in a way similar to how I view adoption, in that we're not saviors. There's a lot of nuance and complexities, and birth families and adoptees often get the shaft. So I'm just very excited to read this because I think Lori will handle some of the nuances and things that I struggle with about adoption in a way that will also make me feel validated. And I just trust Lori Frankel. I love This Is How It Always Is. And I have her other book. 1, 2, 3. I just haven't gotten to it. So she's an author I just really appreciate. So I was very excited to grab that. All right. And then for books sent to me by the publisher, I've got the paperback version of Stone Blind by Natalie Haynes. This is out by Harper Perennial here shortly, I believe. She wrote 1,000 Ships. I actually haven't read anything by her, but I do really love mythology retellings. And then The Phoenix Crown by Kate Quinn and Jeannie Chang. This is an art series. It's the unforgettable narrative about the intertwined lives of two wrong women spanning from the chaos of the San Francisco earthquake to the glittering palace of Versailles. I love Kate Quinn. I've never read Jeannie Chang, but I have seen some of her books. I think like The Porcelain Moon is one of them. So very intrigued by these. I've heard great things. It just published this week. And then as far as gifted copies, I was gifted Bright Young Women from a friend. This book has kind of been buzzy as of the last half of last year, and I was hoping it would be in the book of the month, book of the year, but it wasn't. And so I was really excited to be gifted this because I wanted to read it and didn't really want to pay money for it. A friend was getting rid of these. So the Jasmine Throne series, I have books 1 and 2. I think there's 3 in the series at least. I know very little about this. I just know that they're beloved. So it is a trilogy. It's called the Burning Kingdoms Trilogy. This one, she's trapped by her despotic brother within the crumbling walls of an ancient temple. Princess Malini dreams of vengeance, forced to disavow her birthright and her power because of her past. Maidservant Priya dreams of freedom. In a world beset by wild magic and turbulent uprising, their destinies will become irrevocably tangled, and together they will set an empire ablaze. I also want to say this is LGBTQ friendly. I think it's a queer fantasy. I'm just in a fantasy mood right now. Like, that's what's been working for me in general. So those are all the books I hauled this month so far. We're only in the middle of the month. Not looking great for numbers of books I've read versus brought in, but who knows? I might surprise myself. So I'm gonna pause this for now, and I will come back with part 2 in which I talk about the things that I read here in a little bit. I just need to go do some work for the day. All right, bye everybody. This weekend for my girls trip, we usually do one day where we go out, and then we have another day where we stay in and just read. And we are pretty good at reading. This year, I would say we had a lot more laughter and distractions and chatting, but all in all, we kind of stuck to the plan. So I did make some significant progress. I was almost done with Kingdom of Ash when I left for the trip. So I had about that much left. So I did finish Kingdom of Ash, 5 stars, freaking obsessed with this series in every way, shape, or form. I would die for a lead in Lorcan. Dorian and Manon grew on me, but gosh, what a wild, stressful ride. They're making fun of me because I kept sighing very obnoxiously because where I started that weekend was kind of the big culmination, like battle parts of the book where everything looks dire and nothing good is gonna happen. So I was very emotional and intense for this book, and I finished it, loved it, 5 stars. And then I started Chain Gang All-Stars, which my friend Sarah and I are buddy reading this month, and she's one of my friends from this book club. This is Gladiator meets the American prison system in a not so distant future. And it is dystopian, but is scarily relevant. It's hard-hitting and heavy-handed without being hard-hitting and heavy-handed, in that this is a very deep book. It follows a bunch of people who are affected by the criminal action penal entertainment system, which is a highly popular, highly controversial profit-raising program in America's increasingly dominant private prison industry. So they essentially gamify the inmates, and they make inmates compete for 3 years on this track. And if you survive the 3 years, you get freedom from prison, but they televise it. These inmates are followed by cameras in everything that they do. So you follow these inmates, you follow family members of the inmates, people who think this is unethical. Every chapter is a different perspective. Some are repeating, but I'm just really enjoying it. It is one of those that you kind of just want to sit and like savor it a little bit. So I'm about a quarter of the way in so far. So this is a book I would like to finish this month. And then the final book that I was reading during this weekend, because I'm a mood reader, is No Two Persons by Erica Bauermeister. And this was on a couple of end of the year best of lists for podcasts that I listened to. And it was a part of the Modern Mrs. Darcy Book Club books for summer of 2023 that I just didn't get to. And so it's one I'm reading right now. I'm about 44% in. And the premise of this book is that no two people read the same book. And so every chapter of the book is a different person who has been impacted by this book. The very first chapter is the author of the book and how she kind of gets the story out into the universe. And then the second chapter is the literary agent's assistant who reads this book in the middle of the night feeding, and so on and so forth. You get the audiobook narrator. It's less about the book and about how books impact people. So you're kind of being thrown into these people's stories during a hard time, and then they happen to stumble upon the book, and you kind of see how that book impacts them, much in the way that reading impacts all of us. And it's just a really well-written book that I very much have enjoyed so far. So this is one I will probably finish this week because it's like 300 pages, but it's just really easy to read a chapter. So those are the 3 books that I read this weekend. It was so much fun, very relaxing, and I will again have another video up this weekend too. So you'll get 2 videos this week, I promise, to make up for the fact that I didn't get a video up on Sunday. Thank you for sticking around. If you like what you see, be sure to subscribe. Always leave a comment because it is really fun to talk with everybody in the comments. And until the next video, I'll see you later.